Hello, check test. Sorry, got a little bit of a technical problem tonight. Everybody got audio? I can't really tell. Sounds like it. Check test 1, 2. All right, so it is working. I got too many mice going here. All right. So hey, everybody. Sorry about the quality tonight. Got a bit of a technical issue with my main computer. Hi. Hope everybody had a good week off. I had a little emergency come up and didn't have time to update folks last week, so apologize for that. Let me see if I can get a little more light on here. Oh, that's a little better. It's not great. Maybe we ought to try to. See if we can. Oh, yeah, that's a little better. Okay, so hi. Tonight is going to be potpourri. I had some questions roll in from some folks. I got to try to bring those up here. Just a minute. I've got a real issue here. So just a second. Hold on. I can't see crap. All right, we're getting there. Let me see if I can do a little bit of reorganizing here. Oh, Jesus H. You might get to hear some cussing tonight, folks. Sorry, running late, and my desktop is what I normally stream from as being a persnickety son of a gun. All right, so I guess that'll have to do. So yeah, let me see here. Let's go see who else in the chat tonight while I get things organized. Looks like Tom's in, Gary's in. Hi, Gary. Kevin Coop checking in. Scotty's coming in. George, aka Dad, is come checking in. Sounds like he must have got his clutch his clutch fixed on his Jeep. Okay, let's see who else is in here. Robert Black, I've got a question from Robert tonight. We'll be chatting about that in just a minute. All right, sorry, just kind of reading your rubber roof on kitchen slide. Sounds like Tim's in. Hi, Tim. Okay, let's see. Eric Myers. Hi, Eric. Oh, you're in Payette. That's beautiful country over there in Payette for sure. Eric Myers is in. Paul White checking in from New Hampshire. Hi, Paul. Let's see. I'll get down to the bottom of the comments here just to double check on everybody. David Cockrell is in. Hi, Dave. Gary Sharp checking in from East Texas. Hi, Gary. So nice to have you here. Okay, so Robert sent me a question regarding his some solar stuff he's wanting to do. And so I've got to get that pulled up here. Unfortunately, the way I'm set up tonight, I don't know if I'm going to be able to share his stuff. Just a minute here. Let me see if I can. I totally apologize. Where are you, Robert? RERO. Come on. All right. Sorry about this, guys. Oh, this is just stupid. Well done, TR. That nice way to just completely blow things up here. All right, let me see here if I can find. Trying to find your email, Robert. I've lost it here. Sorry about that. Okay, it looks like, all right, I finally found your stuff here. Alrighty, so let me bring this up. I'm not going to be able to share that there. I'm going to have to come over here. Sorry, folks. Let me see what I can do about getting this up on the screen over here. Yeah, we're 6 minutes in, and I'm still effing around. This is criminal. This is ridiculous. So sorry, folks, to make you suffer through this. Now I've got to sit here and find Robert. I'm working on it. Sorry, guys. I got it on my desktop, but I'm not on my desktop here. I'm on my laptop. Ridiculous. This is what I hate about other people's crappy live streams. All right, here we go. I think we finally got it together. Okay, that's not it. Oh, finally. All right. So let me see if I can share this here with you folks. Okay, and now if I bring this up. All right, now let me come over here. All right, so let me see if I can do this now. Okay. Come back over here. All right, so, all right. Okay, so let's see. While we're waiting for the stream to catch up, I'll run back over here. Clutch is fixed. Scotty should live here on home. Jacking up fifth wheel install. Bolt kit and new shear springs. I have 2 jack stands and a floor jack and a bottle jack. Okay, I'll see what we can do there. I don't seem to be sharing this. My desktop. Let's see. Come back over here. Bring this up. All right, so I think we've got everything squared away. The audio still good? Yeah, I think you're right, Scotty. In fact, I was thinking about that. In fact, we'll sit here and talk about that for a minute because I think I finally got everything sorted out here. Before last week, I was sitting there working on the project, and there we go, finally. And things started to change, which they normally do when you're working with people who are inexperienced with working in commercial real estate and them wanting to make changes after you've already pulled wire and stuff. And I said to myself, now I know why I retired. Okay. Anyway, you should be looking at my desktop right now, and this is Robert's solar design. And let's see if I can scroll this up a little bit. All right, that looks like the best we can do. That's a short power. Okay, that ties into his Victron here. This is the display output from the Victron. This is an MPPT solar charge controller here. It looks like a circuit breaker, a bus bar, a circuit breaker. This would be Bluetooth. This would be the shunt that he's intending to install. And this looks like a, that looks like a shunt too. Oh no, this might be the, no, that looks like a shunt. And then we've got a good size fuse here. Oh, okay. The first thing that stands out, Robert, and Kevin, you could back me up on this. but I think that fuse is too big. I don't know if you want a 400 amp fuse there. Depending upon the specs of the Victron, I think probably a 300 is probably the biggest you want in that particular location. We're looking right here next to your cutoff switch, your turn-off switch. The second thing I notice is I would recommend that you move this cutoff switch to the negative side, or add one to the negative side. Okay. Other than that, I think it looks fine. I'm going to go over here to the comments and see if anybody else has any comments on that. Again, Robert Black, 1911, checking in. And this is a solar design inverter. He's adding another 400 amp hour battery. Let me go see what his email read here just a minute. Okay, I'm missing anything. I don't know if the fuses look good. You've got circuit breakers. I think the circuit breaker over here is probably, well, if that's there to isolate the system, then that's fine, but it's not required, I don't believe. This circuit breaker right here, I'm assuming you can see that. Let me go over to my other computer here so I can see. Monitor. All right, I don't see the mouse, but if you look, there we go, right there. That circuit breaker is probably extra. And yeah, Tom, I agree with you. I think. Okay, so we've got a couple questions. Paul White, we'll get to you in a minute. I do have your stuff to talk about tonight. Let me just go back over here to the comments real quick and note that Judy's in. Hi, Judy. And Judy White and Judy Kimbrough, both Judys. Judy. We need another Judy, right? Sorry. Okay. Oh, I see. Yeah. Okay. Okay. So would the fuse be based on the max charge or discharge of the BMSs on the batteries? What is the size of the blue box circuit breakers? Good question. I don't know if I can see those. Let me pull it up here and see if I can read those on my workstation. I've got my laptop here, and so it's pretty small. So, Robert, would you let us know how big the circuit breakers are over here on the solar charge controller? That's this device right here. So he's got his solar panels. Assuming the blue is negative, which is fine. This over here, electronic leveling. Oh, okay. That we don't care about that too much. That's not relevant. Here's this shunt. The shunt looks good. Looks to be wired correctly. Okay, everything looks good to me other than the disconnect. So the big red switch right here, that disconnect, probably, I mean, you can put one on both legs, on the positive and the negative. I think it's probably better to put it on the negative. I'll defer to the audience to argue that with me, but I think it's better on the negative side. That fuse is a little big. I think his Victron is the Multi Plus 2. I think it's a 2 kVA. Okay, there we go. Robert says Victron recommends 400 amp next to the battery. Okay, if that's what Victron recommends, then that's good. Breakers are 30 amp. Let's see. That's a 150. Let me run over here and look at this. Gosh, this is confusing. Okay. The circuit breakers are too small. for the solar. You've got a 50 amp solar charge controller there with 30 amp breakers. I would change those breakers out to 50 amps at a minimum. Okay. With 4 solar panels, don't know the size of your solar panels, assuming, we'd have to do the math on that, but I think your breakers are a tad small there. Let's see here. I don't know. That looks like I think that probably is probably looks pretty good. Let's go back over to the comments here real quick, just to the folks that, because I know Tim and Kevin both have a pretty good electrical background. Victron recommends 400. Breakers are 30. Mine was the light housing itself. There we go, David. Thank you. We'll get back to that in just a minute. Yeah, I think the shore power breaker is probably already in place. Kevin mentions there are 2 breakers, one from shore power and the other one. Let's pop over here, pop this back up. Yeah, the shore power here technically is probably coming through the RV breaker panel. Typically, the way you feed those is the shore power connects to the breaker panel. Then you put an appropriately sized breaker in the circuit breaker panel to protect that side of it. So that does look to be 200 watts each, 4 panels. Okay, we'll do the math on that in just a minute. Yeah, so Robert, I just want to make sure, and I think Kevin made a good point here. You show the shore power connected directly to the Victron. You should probably go shore power to the RV breaker panel to the Victron, so that it's going through a circuit breaker in the RV's breaker panel, which I suspect is probably how you're wired now. Okay, is that it should go shore power to your RV breaker panel, which I'm guessing it probably is now. From the breaker panel, there should be a circuit breaker that goes from the breaker panel to the Victron unit, to your inverter charger in this particular case. And then the other stuff looked okay. Yeah, I don't know. Robert writes back. Shore power would go directly to the multi-plus because it supplied power, both inverter and pass-through. Yeah, but okay, so that's true, but you have no protection on that if you go straight from shore power to the Victron. So you have no protection between your shore power and the Victron, and that is not good practice. Okay, you definitely need some protection in there. Robert, remind me what rig you got, just so I can kind of look at potentially how it's wired right now. While Robert's looking that up or getting that back to us, Paul White, who is watching from out in New Hampshire, has got an intermittent in his Winnebago View. As I told Paul, intermittents are a huge pain in the rear. They're terribly hard to find. I thought I saw some chatter in the chat about that. Let me go back and see. Paul, I still working on trying to fix my right turn signal. Trace wires, no issue. I can see. New light flashers work on everything but the right side rear only. Can't find the relay either. Okay, well, if the flashers and everything else are working, then the relay is working. Because if it was a relay, then none of the signals or flashers would work. So let's see. I thought I saw David. David said, Paul, mine was light housing itself, replaced the housing and fixed it. Old one looked fine, but something in the ground was bad. And yeah, I suspect it's probably a ground issue, Paul. There's a way to find out on the actual light itself. Give yourself plenty of wire, and on the ground side, just literally cut it off and get yourself a piece of wire. Go from ground on the chassis, attach it to the end of the ground side of the light, and if it lights, then you got a bad ground. Even if the housing is plastic, that's fine. There should be 2 wires, maybe 3 on your lights in the rear. But I think ground is probably where I would look to um, fix that. Okay, just trying to read the comments here. Okay, Robert says he's going to add a disconnect to the negative. Both Coopers are. Kevin Coop says both records are 30 amp. Hi from Carlsbad. Going to Ohio in 2 weeks. Good. They ever replace the housing light with new 2-wire design LED, no ground. Yeah, it has to have a ground, Paul. And you did replace the housing light with the new 2-wire design, LED, no ground. It has to have a ground or a negative side. Robert has 200 watt panels. You know what the voltage of those panels is, Robert? Yeah, Scotty mentioned upsizing circuit breakers from 30 to 50, but smaller is safer for protection depending upon the wires and expected current demand. That's true, but what happens is, and I don't know this for sure, but when we get the numbers here, if he's got 200 watt panels, that gives him 800 watts. And if he's running at 12 volts, which I don't think he would be, but we'll just assume it's 12 volts, 800 watts divided by 12 volts is 66 amps, 66.6, give or take. And so in reality, he's going to be pulling more amperage off the roof and sending more through the solar charge controller than, let's see, 12 volts at 50 amps is going to be potentially coming off of his solar charge controller. Let me go back to this here real quick so I can talk this through just a minute. Sorry about all of the monkeying around here tonight, folks. Let's see. Let's get this up here. Transition that over, and then we got to come back here. All right, so we're assuming we have 800 watts here, okay, in the solar panels. And if it's 800 watts at 12 volts, then that's roughly 60 amps coming off the roof. His solar charge controller is good for 100 volts, 50 amps. That's what the 100/50 shows on his solar charge controller there. This guy right up here. And so with a 30 amp breaker there, he could only theoretically send 30 amps to his batteries. And essentially he'd be wasting approximately 20 amps. So let's talk about that just a little bit. The fact of the matter is, let me pop over here and do some quick switching around. The fact of the matter is that only on June 21st at solar noon, with perfectly clean panels, absolutely no shade falling on the panels, will you ever get the maximum amount off the roof as far as the solar panels go. Okay? So it's okay to undersize the solar charge controller a little bit. 50 amps is plenty. The problem you run into is that when you go to get into a little bit bigger solar charge controller, the cost goes way up. I know that the 150, because that's what I started with on my RV, and I quickly realized that I was way too small. Between that and the 100 amp solar charge controller is about a $500 difference. So I think, and I will stand corrected, but I think that he's probably fine with the 50 amp solar charge controller. I think that it would probably behoove him to go to 50 amp breakers. Let me pop this all back around here so you can kind of see. So this should probably be a 50 depending upon the voltage of the panels. And this one should be a 50 as well. Okay. So I would change those two breakers out for 50s. Does that make sense? I hope everybody understood that. Let's see. Sorry, I jumped. Oh. Okay. Now, folks, it's going to be one of those nights. Hopefully everything came back. I just saw something bounce. There, it looks like it came back. All righty. Let's see. Where was I? Okay. Okay, I am going to punt here. And Robert, I have had a chance now to look at this very carefully. I'm going to make some revisions, and I'll send this back to you tomorrow. Okay? And then also remind us what your rig is, Robert. Okay? So I can go and look and see. It should be designed such that the shore power, I'll come over here and look at this camera. I'm so used to working off this computer over here. The shore power comes from shore power. It goes to your breaker panel in the RV. And then from the breaker panel in the RV, you would probably pull a 30 amp circuit breaker, which means you will need 10 gauge wire to run from this breaker panel in your RV to the Victron. Okay. And then you would come back from the Victron. Let me think. No. All right, I need to know what kind of RV you got. I'm going to have to go look at the wiring on that RV and understand how it's put together. So I'm going to shut up now because I'm spinning my wheels, and I'm going to have to look at this real close to make sure that it's right. Okay, thanks, Square Body. I'll circle back on you in just a bit. Thank you for that super chat, Scotty. You're so kind. I really do appreciate that. Okay, looking at the questions here. We'll just go with Square Body, and then we'll circle back to Paul. Square Body, hi, Jay. I hope you're doing well. Enjoying your Mercedes 300 content. He says he has a question about the black tank in truck camper. Is the vent stack pipe usually installed with a bulkhead fitting? Mine is leaking clean water with tank and toilet full of head pressure. Okay, he sent me some pictures. All right, let's go see. I'm guessing you just sent them. Oh, shoot, I'm on the wrong computer here. Just a minute, folks. Let me over here. Did you send that to trbolin@gmail.com, Square Body, Jay? Clear this out here and see if I can get back to my inbox. Yes, he did. Okay. Alrighty. Okay, I see it there. Let me share this desktop again, folks. Just a minute. Okay, these are pictures from Square Body regarding his black tank vent. Here's the commode, and then there's the vent in the background there. Okay, and there's the vent with, okay, I see that there. That's where it comes up out of the tank, because this is actually, part of this is part of the black tank. Okay, I see that there. Right, what's the other one? Okay, so your question was, the vent stack pipe usually installed with a bulkhead fitting. Mine is leaking clean water with the tank and toilet full of head pressure. Okay, see if he says anything else. Yes. Where is it leaking? Is it leaking at the stem that goes into the top of the black tank, Jay? Or is it leaking at that union that I see there? The where you're pulling the pipe from that old to the new. Describe for me where it's leaking, please. Okay, I'm going to run back over to the comments here. Alrighty. Did you happen to find that Victron info, Kevin? Alrighty, let's see here. Yeah, Dave's right. Responding to Paul, there does have to be a ground, whether the housing is ground, generally where the mounting bolts go, or an actual ground. And it's in those plastic, um, in those plastic lights. There's always going to be a ground wire going to the light somehow, and bypassing that is a way to test and see if the ground locally there is not working correctly. No bad old mounting screws, plastic. The original did not use a ground. It had to, Paul. Unfortunately, yes, it has to have a ground. I agree with folks on that. Oh, now it says it's no longer intermittent. Doesn't work at all. Okay. Paul, do you have a multimeter? Okay, Montana 305 RL. Okay, Robert, I'm going to research this more. Hi, Ben Demby. This is a test to text during the live cast. It is working. Okay, the Paul ground wire. Okay, Paul white. It's red and white wire only. Okay, the red wire will be hot. The white wire will be your ground. Excuse me. Oh, Ben says no. Okay, good. I'm glad to hear that. Robert says around 75 volts on the solar. Okay. What solar panels are they? Can you send me the model of your solar panels, Robert, please? Thank you so much, Scotty. Yeah, I got that's good. That's a good call, Kevin. He breaker size, the vector verify the 400 amps sounds right, and figure out if it will accept 400 amps of conductor. Yeah, that's always a good question because you're going to want 4-aught cable. Excuse me, you're going to need 4-aught cable from the batteries to the inverter if you're running that much juice, depending upon the length, of course, but Gary, you're too funny. He says solar is different in Arizona than Washington State, in that you get more solar. Oh, it's half past. I should do my cheap plug while I'm thinking about it. If you like the video, be sure and give me that thumbs up. Always appreciate that. If you're not subscribed, please subscribe. Ring the notification bell. A quick visit over to my website is always greatly appreciated at trbolin.com, as is your support of the channel by visiting Amazon through the link in the video description. That'll take you to my Amazon store. Then you can depart from there, go anywhere on Amazon, purchase what you like. I'll get a small commission and you'll pay the same price. There's other links there too, as far as Renogy and RecPro for discounts. Again, as an affiliate, I get a small commission, but you'll pay the same price. And so I really do thank you for your support, and I apologize for the cluster this live stream has been with all of this. I don't know what happened. My GoPro camera will not connect to my desktop. Excuse me. I'm not sure what happened, but it's sure not happy. Oh, Paul White, thank you so much. Oh, and Robert, thank you both so much for your super chats. That is very kind of you. Very, very kind, and I do greatly appreciate your support. Definitely, Scotty, because I make coffee at home. I don't usually buy coffee at like Starbucks or anything. Someone wants swimming pool filter. Is there any problems with RVing into Canada? No. Nope. Everything is wide open. Just leave your guns home. Unless you got a permit. And you have to apply in advance. But other than that, yeah. And we had a chat about that around town. Oh, it was probably maybe 6 or 7 weeks ago. There is an article on my website over at trbolin.com on how to cross the border and what you can and can't take. The list is pretty self-explanatory. If you have firearms, you have to register them. You can't take a handgun at all, but I think you can take long guns, shotguns, and stuff like that. Okay, Jay. Leaking at the stem top of black tank at what may be an old bulkhead fitting. I didn't take it apart yet, but I'm just wondering if they normally installed bulkheads in these types of tank vents. Well, no. If it's a vent, then you're only moving air. There shouldn't be any pressure. So I don't think you would need a bulkhead. However, if you put one in, that wouldn't be a bad thing. I'm just sitting here thinking if there's anything else. It says it's leaking at the stem at the top of the black tank. So it's leaking. Let me flip back over to Jay here. Let me jump back over here to our buddy Jay. I'll bring this up. So Jay, it's leaking down here. Let me go back to this other photo. Is it leaking down here at this location around that where the stem goes into the tank, around that fitting? We can't quite see it there. I think that's probably the best photo right there, right? So it's leaking right here. Is that what you're telling me? Okay, the black water does reach into the top of the tank when plumb full and is under slight pressure. Yeah, it wouldn't be a lot of pressure. Okay, so that's where it's leaking. I suspect that you probably didn't replace that. It looks to me like when you did your rebuild, you probably didn't change that out. You probably just added that union onto the top of the stem here, but it's leaking down there. My guess is that there could be a crack down there around that where that stem goes through that bung or through that fitting. The problem with a bulkhead on a tank like that, and your tank, it might not be too bad, other than you'll have to put your hand inside the tank, and if you can reach over there to hold the gland nut on it, so when you tighten up the bulkhead fitting, a bulkhead fitting wouldn't hurt in there. I don't know that they do that standard, and because here's what I'm thinking. I'm remembering that your truck campers was 1970s. So we're really dealing with 70s plumbing. and I suspect there's a crack in that fitting. What's that dark goo, that black stuff that's around that uh, fitting where it goes into the tank, Jay? Could you tell me that? Yeah, I got you the slight pressure in the toilet because it's higher in the area. And yes, I did not replace it because it didn't leak until I put the toilet on with the slight head pressure. Yes, okay, yeah, okay. And water black tank does reach top, okay, yeah. Well, Tom, I was thinking about something like seal all, actually JV weld. Um, if you could get down in there, that's going to be a real bugger to get to. I mean that's that. I don't know how. I mean, you're going to have to get down in the corner, pull the toilet out, do all that kind of stuff to get into that. So yeah, I would try to seal it before I got in there and tried to replace the actual fitting. Um, but the pressure should be very minimal, Jay. Okay, so we're not talking. I mean, we're talking a couple psi, because the difference in head of what you got sitting in the toilet and what's in that tank when it's clear full couldn't be 2 or 3 psi. And the second thing is, no, there shouldn't be that much pressure in there because that vent's open, right? So you're open the atmosphere above that. So it's going to be a very minimal amount of pressure. But if there's a crack in that fitting, which I suspect, you might be able to seal that. Let's see. Square Body says, I don't know the details yet. I'll take it apart tomorrow. I want to just put a bulkhead in if I can, clean that old crap out. I can have the toilet out in 10 minutes and, yeah, slight pressure. Okay. Yeah. I would say no, there's not probably a bulkhead fitting there now. I suspect that it's a molded fitting in the top of the tank. And I suspect they glued that stem in there. And I bet you that stem or that fitting in the tank is cracked. And yeah, with just a little bit of water sitting in there, it could, I mean, water can get through a minute, can get through the smallest crack. He says, oh, the tank is clean as of now. I'm testing it with clean food dyed water. Okay, currently. Here's a trick too, Jay, that might help you identify where the leak is. Toilet paper. So you take some toilet paper, put it down around that fitting, and then watch it. And you'll see that toilet paper, it just gets wet really fast, and that'll show you where the leak's coming from. That might help you identify and figure out where the leak is. Hope that helps. Let us know what turned out. But do you know what's sealing that stem where it goes into the tank? Question mark. All right, let me go over to the let me go over here to the questions and just make sure, I'm kind of scattered tonight. Sorry about that, folks. I'm normally working right here in front of me. I'll show you my workstation. All right, but tonight I had to fire up my laptop to make things work. I'm awful yellow. I've got jaundice apparently. It's just the lighting. Sorry about that. Okay, so 7:45. Let's see. I'm going to circle back to Paul. Okay, Paul White says white appears to. Okay, red and white are okay. Paul White has an intermittent in his right tail light in his Winnebago View. It's on a Mercedes chassis. We're trying to troubleshoot that a little bit. It sounds like all the lights are working except the right. The right doesn't work at all. That's okay. Good to know. That tells us the flasher's working, so I think we can ignore the flasher. He says red and white wires are attached, and I went through the RV for anything loose but didn't find anything. I did find a white wire by the emergency brake that was not attached. It appears to a brown wire. It needs to be attached to a brown wire with a white stripe. Okay. Reading ahead here for Paul. Paul, Okay, so he wants to know how I test it out. Paul, I would trace that wire that comes off the light, um, the tail light. The white wire should be the ground. Okay. And then trace it till you find where it connects. There might be a crimp or something that connects it, maybe some kind of a connector, probably on that Winnebago with the Mercedes. It's going to go to some kind of a connector. Okay. You should be able to take that connector apart. If you have a multimeter, you can flip that turn signal on. With the probes, I don't have a multimeter here, but with the probes from the multimeter on voltage, DC voltage, you could test between the two terminals. Okay, and you should get 12 volts, and it should go 12 off when the signal's working. And if the tail light's on constantly, it should probably be on 12 volts all the time. To test it, if it's a ground, you can disconnect that white wire and connect another wire from the chassis, from a bare piece of metal on the chassis. Okay, so find a screw or something like that that goes into metal. It must be to the metal of the chassis. And you can touch that wire to that and plug it into the white wire on the tail light. So the wire from the red goes to the tail light. From the tail light, the white wire comes out. You've disconnected the pigtail at the connection. You're testing that white wire. You're touching it to ground. You might be able to just take the wire and touch the ground, but you might need an extra piece of wire. You take that wire, touch it to ground, and if the light lights, then you got a bad ground. The thing that's concerning to me or confusing to me is that it only has two wires and it's your turn signal. Is it also your stop light and your tail light? Question mark. Or are those separate? And if they are separate, do those work? I'll come back over here to the comments. Kevin, yes, in order to do 400 amps, 2-aught conductors for up to 20 feet and or 4-aught if longer. Tim says, responding back to Square Body, I would just epoxy a flange fitting to the top of the tank and connect that to my vent, but then I'm a little lazy. And actually, Tim, that might be easier than getting that. It's going to be a challenge to get that bung in there. Or because you're going to have to get a nut on the back of that gland, right? So that gland's going to go through there. You're going to get some kind of a large nut on there, tighten it down with gaskets. Yeah, okay. But yeah, and then the other thing is epoxying it from the top probably won't seal it. That's just my pessimism coming through. Yeah, Square Body says, hopefully I can get my arm in there to install a bulkhead. I do not know the connection because I never took it apart during the rebuild because it didn't leak. Okay. I attached the wire by the e-brake, but nothing. Okay. Robert Black, I was incorrect on the panels. The solar panels are Renogy 100 watt, 22 volts. Check the MPP history, and I'm getting around 89 volts. So you have the 4 panels connected in serial or parallel? Are you sure you're getting 89 volts? That's a lot. That'd be 22, 4 times would be 88. So yeah, it sounds like you've got those in parallel. I will answer your question in a moment. Pause and play. Thank you. We are working on Robert Black. Okay, Robert. Okay, can you send me the drawing of how you connected your solar panels? They're 100 watt. That's good. That helps. That also leads me to believe that maybe the 30 amp breakers might be big enough. We'll have to work that out, but we will. Yeah, Tim, I agree with you. You need to get that. Paul needs to get that white wire connected to ground. Kevin says he can take out the working and non-working light and put the known good on where the bat. Okay, see if it still works. If so, bad light. If not, bad wiring. That's a good suggestion. What? Uh, but it's okay. Yeah, if the light is swappable, in other words, if it's one of those pop-in LEDs, I don't think it's going to be. I think this is too new. It's a 15 Mercedes chassis. I don't know that he's going to be able to swap bulbs like that, but that's good if you can move the bulbs. If they're like old 1157s or 1163 bulbs, like in old, incandescent style lights, you can definitely swap the lights around. Thanks, Kevin. Yeah, series volts are additive, amps are additive and parallel. Um, so, Paul, the light is not working. Is turn signal only in the back? Front turn signal works just fine on the right side. Okay, so it's only the turn signal. The brake light works fine. Okay, so you can steal, I say steal, but you can share the ground between the turn signal and your brake lights right there at the light. Okay, you can get yourself a little connector and connect the ground there in the tail light, which would fix it, but that doesn't tell us where the brake is in the ground. I would also try to trace the ground. A lot of times the ground is going to be grounded to the chassis somewhere near the lights. You might look on the left side and see if you can find that white wire. Look around underneath the chassis and see if that white wire goes to, oftentimes it might be a screw that is screwed into the chassis itself. I mean, the chassis is the metal part of the rolling part of the vehicle. Um, but yeah, it sounds like you got a ground. Sounds like you got a ground problem. Um, all right, we're gonna. Yeah, that's right, Square Body. I agree with you, and I don't know that even I wouldn't try to epoxy it and seal it. I would either do ASB, um, excuse me, ABS. Yeah, so IBS solvent weld if anything needed. Once I dive into figure out. Yeah, okay, sounds good. Pause and play. This is a very random question, but I've got so many different answers. I recently found mold growing in my bed area wall. What is your suggestion on killing it before covering back? Chlorine bleach works as good as anything. A, a dilute concentration of chlorine bleach, I would say maybe a quarter cup in a gallon of water. That's more than strong enough. Put some rubber gloves on. Don't, I mean, unless you got, iron hands like mine. But use some rubber gloves and wipe the wall down really well. Then get some in a spray bottle. And what I want you to do is don't saturate the area, move everything away that's could get damaged by the chlorine bleach. Move everything away from it. Spray the area, let it dry at least overnight. Spray it again, let it dry overnight. But chlorine bleach, in my opinion, is the least impactful way to kill mold. Now, there's other things out there that people say that you can use, Lysol and, hydrochloric acid. I mean, those are all kinds of crap. No, don't use hydrochloric acid. I'm being facetious. But I think chlorine bleach, and I'll stand corrected on anybody who wants to say something over in the chat. I think chlorine bleach is your best bet. And is the mold on the surface of the wall? It sounds to me like you might have a little bit of a moisture problem. I spoke to somebody last year about a problem very similar to this, and they were getting mold around their bed. And so what I would recommend is when you park your RV, go in and pull the bed away from the wall or whatever it's touching where the black mold is or where the mold is. Okay? So when you're in storage, don't let the bed touch the wall. Just pull the bed away. That's going to let some air get through there. That should help prevent the mold from coming back. But I would say chlorine bleach, a quarter cup of Clorox in a gallon of water. It's going to be more than strong enough. Spray it. The smell of the chlorine will evaporate, dissipate within a day or so. I would treat it for 2 or 3 days, scrub it out really well. And then, like I say, when you park the RV and it's in storage, pull the bed away from the wall so that you get some air circulating around it. I'm trying to remember when that was, but it's been within the last year or so that we had somebody on the live stream here that had a very similar problem with mold around their bed, and we told them to bleach and pull the bed away when they're in storage, and I believe that solved their problem. We didn't hear back from them, so I'm left to assume that it did. All right. Okay, pause and play. Had a leak and made a mushy wall. The second thing is try to find where the leak's coming from. Pause. Okay. Try to fix that leak. Leaks in RVs can be so damaging. And if you don't believe me, go watch my truck camper restoration series on my channel. Of course, now that thing was almost 30 years old. But yeah, water leaks are extremely damaging. Pause and play. Did you remove the spongy wall? Okay, the leak's fixed. Did you remove the spongy wall and have you put it back together yet? If not, do the chlorine bleach in underneath the patch. If you haven't put the patch on or haven't fixed the wall yet, treat that whole area with the chlorine bleach. Do it a couple times. Let it dry out in between applications. Okay. Oh, he says, I did pull all the insulation out. Okay. Thanks so much. Leaks fixed. Yeah, replace the insulation. Treat everything with a little bit of chlorine bleach spray. And you should be okay. But yeah, leaks are just, they're so damaging, so hazardous. Okay, little elbow grease, yeah. Had a leak, made a mushy wall, yeah, fixed. Okay. Paul says he bought 2 new lights and tried both, no good. Ground issue probably. I'll try to share the ground from the brake light. I'll report back if successful. Okay, cool. Leaks fixed. Okay, great. What about the spores? The bleach will take care of the spores too. Okay. So, and what I would do is I would move the bed out of the way. I don't know what your rig is, but I would move my bed out of the way. Obviously, I would wash my sheets, bleach them if you can. The same bleach water that we used on the wall, wipe down your mattress, wipe down the pedestal the bed lays on, wipe down everything around it, and that will take the spores out too. The mold will take care of the spores as well. And like I say, do that a couple times. Let it dry in between. I'm assuming you're probably in a moist climate too. So, and then when you park it, make sure the bed is away from the wall. Okay, that will help improve the air circulation around there. But it sounds like you fixed the leak, and that's going to be the key. The spores, once you wipe everything down with the chlorine bleach, you should be fine. Hopefully that helps. Let us know. Daryl Taz asks, is there any way to weatherization of awning materials? What do you mean weatherizing your awning materials? Do you mean like coating them with something? Or normally awnings are pretty waterproof already. Tell me what your awning is made of, Daryl. If you can, let me know what your awning's made of. Pause and play. It's been heavy fog for weeks now. Drying is the issue. Do you have a little space heater? Don't leave it unattended, but just take your space heater out there and set it up and just let a space heater run on the area for a few minutes or a little while. Monitor it closely. Uh, but yeah, use a little space heater or a hair dryer. Take your hair dryer, blow dryer, whatever you want to call it out there, and you can blow dry the area to get it dry. But if you're in that much fog, have you considered using moisture desiccant type stuff inside of the rig when it's in storage? There are some, uh, I've got some really good ones over on my Amazon store, trboland.com/, well, you can find the link in the video description. And go to the store handy items for RV owners. I've got some real good suggestions on some desiccant packs that are rechargeable. But if you live in an area that's foggy and you have a lot of moisture, you might want to seriously consider keeping Damp Rid is a brand. There are several others. But yeah, you definitely want to stay ahead of that moisture inside the RV because mold, it's incipient. It's horrible stuff. However, it's not impossible to get rid of with the bleach and a little bit of elbow grease, like Tim said. So, Daryl, I'm waiting for you to, and yeah, maybe a humidifier, a dehumidifier is a good point, Tim. I'm waiting for Daryl to come back and answer. Is there any way to weatherize of awning materials? I'm kind of reading into this. Are you asking about waterproofing it? There are several products out there that work extremely well at waterproofing, but I just need to get a little bit more information there. I will hang on here for a minute. Normally I try to keep these to an hour. But hope Daryl can throw his question back in there. So please do, Daryl, if you can, let me know. Because usually awnings are vinyl, vinyl coated fabric, which by its very nature is waterproof. So I'm not sure what you're trying to get to, Daryl, but I'm sure happy to try to help. All right. So thanks, everybody. I guess we'll hang here for just a minute. I know there's some latency in the stream tonight. Just a quick, if you like the video, be sure and give me that thumbs up. And then I'll be back next Tuesday once I figure out everything over here on the old workstation. I don't know what. I did a stream just the other day. What the heck? Oh, well. The magic of technology. You never know. I'll reinforce them from cracking. Okay, Daryl. Okay, thanks, Square Body. Thanks, Jay. Take care. I know it's late out there in Pennsylvania, so thanks for watching. And yeah, I'll be watching for that. What you did to fix that. Peace out, dude. No, Daryl, I don't know of anything. I was not around town. I was out with a little family emergency last week. Came up at the last minute. I ended up having to drive over to Boise. I didn't realize I had to leave till about 4 o'clock last Tuesday, and little family issue, and I had to run away real fast. Sorry about that. May wasn't a good month. I only got 2 nights in. I had one night where I had Ethernet or internet connectivity issues, and then last week. Okay. I just no, Daryl, not that I'm aware of. I'm going to throw over to the crony, the old gray guys like me over there. There you go. Okay. Kevin Coop might have a good suggestion for you there, Daryl. He says he's not going to believe what I use on vinyl awnings. I use Howard's Butcher Block Refinish. It has mineral oil, bees, and carnauba wax. Makes stiff vinyl soft. Interesting. Howard's Butcher Block Refinish. Okay. There's a suggestion, Daryl. I don't know of anything that will stop the vinyl from cracking on them. They're out there. You might try some silicone spray, but that's a good question, and I just don't. You know, I'm not sure. But thanks for the suggestion, Kevin. Paul, I'll be watching for an email, and it'll be interesting to find out. Please let me know. Tom Downey says his are cotton canvas. The ones on the ones I replaced on my Class A were vinyl. Well, there were canvas vinyl coated canvas. Daryl, I just don't have a good answer for you. Sorry. But Kevin had a pretty good one there, and I could see how that would work really well to soften up the vinyl. I would think that probably the main active ingredient in that would be, as far as the vinyl goes, would be the mineral oil. Okay, well, we're going to call it one last call for any questions. Daryl, I wish I had a better answer. I just don't. I'm going to look at that, though, a little bit, see if there's something out there. Because I get what you're talking about. I mean, I know there's vinyl conditioners out there, there are commercial ones all over. I'm hesitant to recommend anything that I haven't personally used. Okay. So, but however, Kevin is a pretty smart cat, and you might try that. It can't hurt. All right. If there's no other questions, I wish to thank you for your tolerance and patience while I effed things up tonight. I promise to have everything working properly next week. That means I'll be back at 7 p.m. Mountain Time next Tuesday night to be able to answer your questions. To everybody who sent the super chat tonight, thank you so much. It really means a lot to me that you appreciate my help and that you're willing to throw a few coins my way. And so thanks in advance. Okay, thanks everybody for watching. I will see you next week. Until then, peace. Good night. Bye.